Hey guys, Cam for 15 back at it with another video for you guys, back with another episode review of the One Piece live action show for season 1. And this time we are talking about episode 3, which obviously talks about the Ussop portion of the arc. And honestly, going back and rewatching this, I just remember, the differences that this portion had in comparison to the anime and the manga. Like, absolutely crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. There's so many differences. Well, okay, so how about this? Like the stuff on the outside, there are differences. But the stuff within, like, the Usopp arc, right? It was basically word for word, right out of, what we saw. Just the only difference is we actually do see the battle area take place, especially in episode 4 later, but we'll talk about episode 4 later, or the next time. But anyways, this episode was the introduction to Usopp in the live action version, and honestly, it was really good. I liked it, and I remember when I was first watching this show, I was absolutely very much intrigued to see, like, oh shit, this is getting good. So let's get off with the episode. We obviously start the episode off in a flashback, and it was the whole thing of where Usopp's saying the pirates are coming, the pirates are coming. If you remember way back then when Usopp was a kid, he would always joke around and mess with the townspeople and saying that the pirates are here, the pirates are here, and we would always see how we would get scolded and everything. So yes, but this then cuts to the present time. And we still see how he still is doing that stuff. Again, it's absolutely funny, right? So in the meantime, we do cut over to Luffy, Nami, and Zoro, and they're basically sailing, but Nami basically realizes that there is a leak within the ship and that this ship won't be able to go far, like, that the ship won't be able to go as far as it can, and it's gonna essentially, flood and it's gonna sink. So basically, Nami is like, look, we need to go find somewhere where we can get a new ship, right? Because we're gonna drown and we're gonna freaking, be lost or basically stuck at sea doing nothing. So Luffy's like, well, all right, we'll find a new ship then. Also, too, this is when he made the freaking Jolly Roger, right? But he drew it all messed up. Um, and Nami's like, you're not hanging that on the ship. He's like, oh, but we're a pirate crew. And again, it's so hilarious how Nami and Zoro, like, we're not a crew. So that's kind of the whole thing, right? Nami's still of the antithesis of like, oh, we're not a crew, we're not a pirate crew, I'm not a pirate. Like, let's get things straight. So essentially, they stop at an island where they can go find a ship, and obviously it's Usopp's island, right? Syrup Village. So they stop at Syrup Village, and basically they're looking, they're looking for the shipyard to go find ships. Now, the thing is, they actually come across the bounty wall. So we see Alvida's bounty, and then we also see Buggy's bounty, right? So Zoro immediately sees Buggy's bounty, and he's like, frick, I knew we should have captured this dude, because guess what? That would have gave us 15,000, right? For Buggy, just to turn in Buggy, right? So Luffy's like, oh, well, who cares? It is what it is. We'll still get our ship, right? So, excuse me. So Nami eventually finds the shipyard, and she shows them where it's at so they can go look for the ships, right? So they're looking for ships in the shipyard, and essentially the thing is, Nami wants to actually just like steal a ship, right? But Luffy's like, no, no, no. We're gonna do things the right way. We're gonna go buy a ship. But Nami's like, but why not just steal one? Like, you're a pirate, that's the thing. And Luffy's like, no, no. We're good pirates. We're gonna do things the right way. We're gonna buy this boat the right way, and we're going to do, and then we're gonna sell it the right way. So again, they're keeping Luffy's whole they're keeping in the live action, they're keeping Luffy's whole mantra of like, yes, even though he's a pirate, he's a good pirate and he wants to do things honorably and do the right thing, right? So, there's that, right? So essentially, what happens is Luffy's looking around the shipyard, and you see him come across the Going Merry, which the Going Merry in the live action looks really good. I do like the way the Going Merry looks like, and they basically modified it in its own way. Where it doesn't look too cartoonish like it does in the anime and the manga. They make it so lifelike. So I do like how they made it look. So this is when he comes, he accompanies Usopp because he overhears, he thinks he's hearing Mary talk, but it's reality, it's Luffy, or it's Usopp talking. But again, that is basically a hint and foreshadowing for the future, of eventually at some point the Mary will actually talk to Luffy, and Luffy will hear its voice, basically the spirit of the ship, right? So I thought that was a nice homage. Again, like I said, I don't know if we'll ever get that far in this series. Like again, I'll say this in my season 2 reviews because we already know like this show's getting to season 3, which will because season 2 is basically covering, from basically them entering the Grand Line to Drum Island before they get to Alabasta. And season 3 is basically covering the Alabasta arc, right? Now, again, like I'll say it again in those videos, I don't know if we'll ever, and I mean ever, touch anything beyond Alabasta. I'd be shocked if we keep going on. Like, honestly, well, one, the actors are going to get older, and they're clearly going to age, right? When, compared to a series where it's like this takes place in only like a few months and right now realistically a whole 2 years, and when you're producing and making these shows, it can take multiple years, and obviously these actors are going to get older. So again, I don't know when they're going to eventually stop the live action version and just stop doing it. Mostly one, because the actors are going to get older, and two, it's like, it's when you get later into the story, it's only so believable of like, okay, how can you do this in live action? How can you do that in live action? You know, so it's like that's the thing. So I could see where maybe they do season 4 if season 3 does get good reception, because that's realistically if they'll greenlight you know, a season 3, or season 4 if season 3 does really well, and they do Skypiea, which I think, hey, it could be doable that they could do Skypiea. Again, personally, if you ask me, I think they can do all the way up to Sabaody Archipelago, and I think after Sabaody Archipelago, that's when they probably should just stop the series, because I think if you can get the whole first half of One Piece you done, like the pre-time skip stuff, I think that's fine. I think realistically, there's no chance in hell they're continuing on to do the post-time skip stuff. The only way they can maybe do the post-time skip stuff is simple. If they like skip like major parts of the story, like for example, like you know, what if they do greenlight season 4, but they skip over Skypiea and they just go straight to Water 7 and Enies Lobby? And then for, if they do season 5, they maybe skip over Thriller Bark, I guess, even though Thriller Bark would introduce um, uh, um, Brooke, who is the last member of the Straw Hat crew, unless they decide to skip it off or they change it in a way to make it make sense or better, unless we see actual CGI freaking oars or whatever, they maybe change it around how they do things in Thriller Bark, and maybe they just make Gecko Moria the main antagonist fully. I don't know. We'll see that. But I personally think like this show is probably going to go up to Sabaody Archipelago, or and then the ending part of the War in Marineford arc, and then that's when they're going to just end it there, and they're going to not do any more. But look, if the show gets very popular and it continues to get a lot of love and people like it, well, look, Netflix is going to continue to greenlight the show. If it's getting the views, it's getting the viewership, the reception, the praise, and the love, they're going to keep going with it until clearly they probably don't have any more budget, or they just, no. But I think with Oda working on it, he's probably got an idea of how long this thing is going to continue to go on, because like I said, like at some point it's going to have to stop, but we'll see. I'm gonna enjoy the live action as much as we get it because I do enjoy it and it's One Piece, so yeah. But anyways, basically Luffy's like, okay, cool, then I want to get this ship, and Nami and Zoro show up and they're like, hey, I found her, and Luffy's like, hey, I found her ship, this is the ship I want, we're gonna buy this ship, right? And he asks Usopp, like, so how much is it? And Usopp's like, whoa. This ship is actually not for sale. The ship is actually owned by a friend of mine who's very rich. And in fact, she owns all of the shipyard. So yeah, but hey, look, maybe I'll take you. Let's go over to her place and you can get to meet her and maybe we can make a deal with her, right? So you guys can get the ship. So they're like, okay, cool. Let's do it, right? So there's that, right? Now, the one thing I definitely do like, especially in this port, is especially throughout the episode with Nami. She's kind of skeptical. She's kind of skeptical on the whole rich people thing because she says like, rich people, it's a rich person. Please, they could care less about the regular common day folk, right? They only care about themselves and they only care about the lavish, monetary things that they live in, which obviously, the One Piece world. Oh man, I'm tired. It's late when I'm recording this. People are like that. There are rich people, obviously celestial dragons, and then we've seen other rich people be like that, right? But Nami does have a point, or did have this whole point about Kaya, or this whole skepticism about Kaya, thinking that she was just gonna flaunt her entire riches, right? So there's that. Now we do get two kind of side plots in this episode. So one of the side plots is again with the Garp thing. So again, Kobe is on Garp's ship, and again they're going to the next island to try to track down Luffy, right? And essentially you just have it to where he's tying the knots for the ship, but Helmeppo, who's there, is not doing his job, and he kind of like chews out makes these other people do the work. So Kobe saw that his rope basically slipped off, so he tied it up, right? And obviously Helmeppo is like, bro, what are you trying to do? Why are you stop trying to show off and act all cool? And Kobe's like, no, I'm not trying to show off, dude. Like, your rope came undone, so I just tied it. And this is when Garp approaches and he's like, okay, who did this? And Helmeppo thinks like, oh, Garp's probably pissed at him, right? Or pissed that this happened. And then Helmeppo's like, he did it, sure. And obviously Garp's like, good job. You tied the knot really well. You tied it really nicely. Good job. And Helmeppo's like, what? And then obviously Helmeppo's like, well, where's my praise? And Garp is like, please, I thought your father would have taught you more than being a lazy dude, right? So it's absolutely funny. Now, their whole dynamic in with Garp and Kobe's case was them basically playing, I think it's mahjong or whatever. I think it's Japanese version of checkers essentially. And essentially Garp was teaching Kobe, you can't like lower your guard, or you can't back down or give any inches of openings for a pirate if you're going up against them. When you have a chance to strike and go for the kill, you take the kill. And Garp is basically telling him like, hey, that's how you need to act. When you see an opening, you need to basically take your chance and do it. Because if you give any pirate any opening, they will take advantage of you. And, it's just like, I like this whole thing of Garp mentoring Kobe, and you actually see the mentorship that Garp is giving Kobe, because we really got it in the manga and the anime. So, there's that, but that was another cool thing. And again, it's another major difference as opposed to how it was handled in the manga and the anime. Another major difference in the manga and the anime is actually the inclusion of the Fishmen Pirates, right? So, and which is Arlong's group. So we have it to where Buggy actually, puts himself back together again. And he goes back, I'm guessing, to Orange Town, and everything. So, there's that. And he's basically cleaning up shop, and he's got his crew's completely gone for the time being, because whatever, right? So essentially you just have it to where, he ends up getting attacked by a fisherman and one of Arlong's crew members. And when I remember I watching this for the first time, I was like, "Oh shit, we're already doing the fisherman's shit already." And essentially, in the next scene, we see them. He's basically all tied up and everything, and basically, Arlong confronts him. And I was absolutely, again, when I first watched this, I was shocked when Arlong showed up, and I'm like, dude, it's only episode 3, and we're in the part of the Syrup Village arc, and this dude's already showing up. So again, Arlong is basically um, uh, pressing Buggy because obviously he doesn't have the match of the Grand Line, and then obviously too, he's like, I thought you said Orange Island was devastated, but clearly it doesn't look devastated to me. Now, I will say, I wish they kind of did, well, one, I think the Arlong looks really good for the live action. I did not like how they portrayed the way the actor portrayed his voice, because it actually is kind of hard to hear him and actually kind of hard to understand because he just talks with this dark, like, or this deep, and when I mean deep voice, this super deep voice. I get what he was trying to do, but it's like when you look at especially like the anime version, he kind of didn't sound like that. He kind of sounded, his voice kind of sounded more aloof and more loud and boisterous. But this one is kind of like more melatonin and everything. I kind of get what they were trying to go with here, though. Like they try to make Arlong's group more kind of like a gang, if you ask me, like a stereotypical gang. Albeit again, like I said, it was quite hard to hear Arlong, especially understand what he's saying. But basically, he presses Buggy about, you know, failing and not doing everything, and he looks like he's about to actually kill him. But then Buggy's like, "Whoa, whoa, I got something good for you." The Straw Hat Kid stole, which his name is Luffy, stole the map to the Grand Line. Look, how about I do you a favor? I can help you if you can help me, right? So basically, they make a little alliance, which again is a difference where Arlong not only showed up early, but him and Buggy actually had an interaction. Like, I don't, because in the original source, him and Buggy never even interacted, right? So that was a fairly big change from the episode right then and there, right? So, anyways, cutting back to the main point, which is just me talking about the rest of the episode when it comes to the Usopp stuff. They go to Kaya's place, and everything, and basically at first, Zoro and Nami don't really believe that Usopp's telling the truth, but eventually, they end up getting caught by Kuro's henchmen. But then all of a sudden, as Usopp's getting pressed, Kaya, with Clawhador or Kuro, shows up, and obviously, so obviously Kaya is happy to see Usopp, and obviously Usopp's happy to see Kaya, right? And you get this whole, because you get the whole dynamic. And again, like I said, I'll say this especially in the 4th episode, because especially the kiss between Usopp and Kaya after the end of the arc, I'll talk about it. But like, hey man, they make it a lot more obvious, well, look, okay, in the manga and the anime, it was clear that Usopp liked Kaya and Kaya liked Usopp, and they both had feelings for each other. But in the live action version, they make it pretty apparent, like, oh no, these two are clearly in love. She loves him and he has a crush on her, right? So they make it very known, like, okay, no, these two, they like each other more than just being friends and acquaintances that have known each other for years. They've liked each other. Again, like I said, I can completely see it by the end of this entire series, where, after Luffy finds the One Piece, maybe they disband the crew and the crew goes their own separate ways. And I can perfectly see it where they all go back to their own original villages, or maybe they go to where they feel like is best. Like I said, I feel like, Zoro, he can go to Wano, because technically he is from Wano, right? Don't know where Robin would go. Frankie, he definitely is gonna probably go back to Water 7, and be with Iceberg. Brook, we'll see where that goes. Jinbei would definitely go back to Fishman Island. I have aspirations of like freaking Bonnie and eventually Yamato will actually join the crew officially and be crew members. Again, like I said, that's my whole thing. I still believe Bonnie will be a crew member. But here's the thing, maybe she lives out on Elbaf. I don't know. We'll see. Um, Yamato would obviously go back to Wano clearly if she joins the crew up again. Nami, I could see her going back to her own village. Usopp definitely would go back to Syrup Village, and he'd probably hook up with frickin' Kaya and tell them of the adventures that he's been on. And Chopper would go back to Drum Island. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So basically, you have it to where Usopp's like, hey, these are my friends or these are my crew. They actually have something to ask of you if you very may well. And obviously, the thing is, Claudor is like, no, it's Kaya's birthday and we can't have guests or anything. Now Kaya's like, no, let's have some dinner and everything, and let's have them come in. And again, Claudor's like, no, and she's like, oh, come on, please. And obviously, Claudor's like, all right, fine. So there's that, right? So basically, that's the whole thing now. Claudor is like, okay, you want to do this? Fine. You got to go get changed and get dressed properly, and also take showers, right? Nami's all for it. She's like, oh yeah, I'll do that, right? So that's kind of the whole thing, right? But also too, again, it is Kaya's birthday, right? Now, the funny thing too is they definitely did get the look of Kuro right. And when I mean they definitely got the look and the act and the feel right, dude, when I told you, man, when they did the whole thing, and I wish I had sunglasses right now, or at least glasses of some kind, but when they did the glasses thing of Kuro, where, if you remember from the anime, he would do the thing where he would just have his like palm of his hand raise up his glasses. Dude, I was cracking up when I first saw this, and I'm just like, bro, no way the live action show did this. So they actually keep the same thing from the anime, and they make the essentially the actor that plays called Clawhador or Kuro. He does the same thing with his glasses, where he gets the palm, he raises him up like that, and then he moves. He adjusts his glasses, which I found to be absolutely hilarious. Every time he did it in this episode, it was funny as shit, because it's like, okay, dude, nobody's fucking doing this, but because it's One Piece and he did this in the anime, he's gonna do it in the live action show again. It cracked me the fuck up every time he did this, right? So there's that. Anyways, Usopp meets up with Kaya in her room, and he again is doing he's doing that story he did, talking about the goldfish poop and everything, and telling her stories and everything, right? And again, if you remember, Kaya's sick and we do see her coughing and everything, and Usopp's doing this to cheer her up and continue to do this, right? And the thing is, Kaya does say, like, again, even though Kaya knows, like, okay, yeah, I know these stories are false, she does genuinely like hearing his made-up stories. And again, we do know Usopp's doing this because, one, he likes her, and two, he wants to make her feel better. Now she does drink this tea, which, if I believe it was I believe the tea only made her condition worse, because it was actually poison that they were feeding her. Again, like I said, when they showed the tea in this, and the tea was blue, and I'm like, dude, ain't no fucking way in hell. If I was in this world and I see my tea blue, and now I don't even drink tea to begin with, but if I saw blue tea, yeah, no, I'm not drinking that, bro. I'd be like, yeah, no, that's gonna be a no for me. I don't think I'm drinking blue tea that looks like it's fucking Listerine, right? So I found that to be absolutely cool. And again, it was identical or weird from that standpoint, but that's kind of the whole thing, right? Now, Luffy and Nami are basically in the changing room. And again, I just found it funny. Like, look, if you want to call this a Luffy x Nami shipping moment, I guess you can call it that if you want, but she's basically changing her clothes and everything, and she comes out in this nice all black dress or whatever, and Emily Rudd plays it really great, right? And Emily's like, so, how do I look? And Luffy's like, you look like Nami. I'm just like, bro, my guy. Yeah, that's Nami, all right. Yeah, Nami's a smoking bombshell. Oh, on top of it too, it's Emily Rudd. Emily Rudd, she's an attractive girl too. She's an attractive lady. And I just found it funny because it's like, Luffy's like, yeah, you look like Nami. And then Zoro ends up walking and he's like, I need something black. I'm just like, bro, this dude. Um, and then essentially Nami puts on another outfit, right? And she's like, so, how do I look now? And Luffy's just like, still Nami. So, again, Luffy does not care about the looks of women. He does not care. He is asexual. He does not like anybody. He has no crushes until further notice in this series till we see, right? Even, albeit, some people do ship him with Nami. Some people ship him with Boa. I personally ship him with Uta the most because clearly One Piece Red did immaculate things showing that clearly Uta has feelings for Luffy. And I guess if you want to say Luffy has feelings for Uta, I guess you want to play it like that, maybe, potentially, but he probably just sees Uta as a friend, right? So, there's that, right? I just found that scene funny. Now, this like ends up leading to a bet between Nami and Luffy because Nami's like, I don't just get why we just don't take the ship, right? Like, why not just take the ship? And Luffy's like, no, we can't do that. Like, Kaya seems like a very nice girl. Let's not do something to betray your trust. I think the best thing to do is we ask, right? So basically, Luffy comes with a bet with Nami, and she's like, okay, what's the bet? He's like, okay, I'm gonna convince Kaya if we can get the ship. If I convince Kaya, hey, I guess my way is better. But if we don't get the ship, we'll do things your way and we'll just steal the ship. And Nami's like, now you're talking. That's a deal. So I thought it was some fun. It's hilarious, bro. Again, I don't think I can say enough good things about the actors that have portrayed their roles, like Inike Godoy, McKenyu as Zoro. But I think honestly, my favorite actor that played the role really damn good is Emily Rudd as Nami. Like, she is just phenomenal as Nami. Like, again, it's from the fact that she is an actual One Piece fan and she's an actual Nami fan. But the way how she plays Nami is really fucking good. I definitely enjoy the way she plays Nami. Like, she has the same type of feel and the same type of vibes as Nami from the anime and the manga, right? Where it's like, I'm gonna only do things that benefit me, and if it does something that sounds like something interesting, then yeah, I will do it, right? And I care about the money and everything, right? So there's that, right? So anyways, basically you have the henchmen working on the food, and obviously they're working on the poison. So this is when Kuro shows up, right? And scares the shit out of them, right? And they're like, are the preparations complete? And he's like, the preparations complete. They're like, yes, sir. So he looks down at one of these cups, or these glass like cups, right? And it's got like, I guess, a dent. And he picks it up. He's like, what's this? And the one girl is like, oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. And he's like, oh, you missed it. Drops it, and it's like, we can't have any screw ups. So, and he again does his thing and walks away. So it's fun. I forgot that. I think one of the black cat pirates. I think his name is Butchie or whatever, Scratchy, and I forgot what the other one. Again, it's been so long since I've seen any of this content for a long time, right? But there's that. Anyways, the dinner comes. They're all having a good time, and they're all eating their food and everything. And this is when Luffy goes into action. He literally steps on the table. He gets him, steps on the table. He asks Kaya, like, hey, it's okay you give us the ship. I really like it. And look, we're pirates. We're trying to go on an adventure to go to the Grand Line so I can go find the One Piece, right? So Kaya doesn't really give an answer at this point in time yet. So they're gonna wait on an answer, right? So this comes to the part where it's basically late in the in the evening, right? So essentially, you have it to where this is when Kuro is pressing Mary, because Mary's also there, right? Also, another funny thing too, in the process, one, are before the dinner, Kaya's walking out, Usopp is immediately infatuated, right? So you have this conversation with Nami and Mary, right? And my goodness, again, Emily Rudd plays it so well, acts just like how Nami would act, right? So obviously, we find out Mary's kind of like the financial advisor to the state of Kaya and everything, right? So essentially, right, I found it absolutely hilarious how, because he's talking about this to Nami, and Nami's like, "Oh, really? Well, I kind of do like some guys that kind of have some financial advice." And Mary's like, "Oh." And I'm just like, "Okay, Nami, you trying to hit on this guy to try to get some cash?" Because she's only looking at the dollar bills, right, in her eyes. She's only thinking, "How can I make all this money?" Right? Okay, sure, I'll play this guy. I'll cuddle up to this guy and make him fall for me, right? So, absolutely funny stuff right there. But, anyways, again, it leads to this cellar area, where all the wine and alcohol is at, where Kuro confronts Mary about handing over basically the estate over to him, because we all knew that was like his big plan, right? He also did have this, I forgot to mention, he also did have this moment between Kaya and him, where obviously Kaya's like, "I don't know how I could ever thank you for doing everything for me." And obviously, Kuro lying through his fucking glasses, right? Is like, "All I need is you just being okay and getting healthy. That's all I care about." But anyways, flash forwarding, he pressures Mary, and Mary's like, "No, I can't do this. Like, let's look. If you want to talk about handing over financial stuff, like, we should really include the lady into this." And obviously, Kuro's like, "No, no, no." So this one, he does his freaking flash step technique, or his, I forgot what the fucking attack was. It was like the pussy. Oh, I remember, the pussyfoot technique, or the pussy cat technique. I'm just like, uh, Jesus, I still can't believe they called that in the series, bro. I'm like, dude, really? Jesus, bro. And he starts doing that, and then Mary's like, "Come on, Claudia, don't mess around with me, don't play with me." And then obviously, he shows his freaking katanas, his glove katana hands, and he impales Mary. Yeah, and again, we'll get to it in episode 4. I don't think Mary makes an appearance after this, so I think I'm convinced another change in this is that the live action show killed Mary off, bro. But again, I have to go back and watch episode 4. It's been a while since I watched episode 4, but I believe that's what they did do. They killed Mary off, which was an absolute crazy change, right? So he gets impaled by Kuro, right? So, and for whatever reason, they just let him there in the cellar. Now, Usopp and what Luffy is looking for, excuse me, is looking for Kaya to try to convince her to give him the ship, but ends up running into Zoro, and then they end up running into Usopp, and Usopp basically explains, like, he's known Kai for a long time, and he actually likes her a lot, like her smile, blah 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 blah, typical thing that boys do when they like a girl, right? Now Luffy does make a mention that he's a pretty good sniper, and essentially that's also when Usopp questions, like, "So is it true what you're trying to do? Like, you're trying to go out and on the One Piece?" And Luffy's like, "Yeah, of course, I'm trying to be king of the pirates, right?" So yeah, but anyways, Zoro wants some alcohol, so him and Usopp go to the cellar, and while they're looking for alcohol, Usopp ends up tripping over the carcass of Mary, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what, Zoro? Who did this, right?" And essentially, eventually Zoro's like, "Huh, 5 stab wounds." And this is when Kuro reveals himself, and Zoro's like, "Yeah, I knew it." Because over the course of the episode, Zoro was basically just saying over and over again, like, "Yeah, this Clawdor guy, he looks familiar." And then essentially that's when Claudor shows himself as Kuro, and that's when Zoro's like, so you're Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates. We find out apparently he was supposed to be dead due to you ask him Morgan, but no, he didn't die. He obviously, he snuck away and faked his own death, right? I also forgot to mention they've done this multiple times in the show. I do like how when they show the bounty, the character acts as an interactive way of with the bounty of how they get away with it. So like when Arlong showed up, and his bounty was there, he basically bit through the bounty and ripped it off. Kuro, he just slices through the bounty, his bounty, right? So this leads to a fight where it looks like Zoro's about to fight Kuro. Kuro uses his cat technique, his flash step. I'm just gonna call it the flash step. Like that's what it really is, right? But the thing is, Kuro's henchmen, they basically knock Zoro out by hitting him with a bottle in the back of his head. He's knocked out. Ussop has to run away, and you have fatty dudes like heals, just hissing at him like. I'm like, dude, now come on, bro. In real life, if somebody were to hiss at me like that, I would hit him so fucking hard. And I'd be like, bro, come on now. You're really hissing at me, and that's supposed to be scary. I'm just like, dude, come on. Now, obviously, they're like, boss, should we go after Ussop? And Kuro's like, no, they won't believe him. And that's what Ussop does. He does the typical thing, like, oh, the pirates are here, I'm not lying. But because he always did that in the past, and he did that multiple times over the past years, none of the townsfolk obviously believe him, right? Now, in the meantime, they literally take Mary and Zoro's body and they throw him down this fucking well, bro. I'm just like, dude, they have no fucking shame. And what I mean, they just throw them down there. They just literally get their lifeless body, just throws them down there. Now, again, Zoro's knocked out. I'm already to believe that Mary's already dead, right? Zoro's knocked out. How the fuck Zoro did not get killed in this instant being thrown down a well, I have no fucking clue. And we don't even know how deep this well is. They made it seem like the well, from what I remember from episode 4 when they're gonna get out, the well, it was damn near a deep hole. So it's funny. Now they also even do put in the throwing the swords. And the one dude's like, should we keep these? And dude's like, and girl's like, no, we're supposed to get rid of any form of evidence, right? So there's that. Now, the last bit of the episode, realistically, is Nami. She's scavenging around and she's taking some valuable stuff. She ends up going to Kaya's room. Kaya obviously was up and's like, Nami? And she's like, what are you doing? And Nami's like, oh, well, I was looking for the bathroom. And obviously, Kaya sees the pillowcase and she's like, well, then what's the pillowcase for? So basically, she knows like, oh, so you really are a pirate and you're trying to do pirate things. And Nami is like, no, I hate pirates, right? So that's the thing, right? So this leads to a moment where they have a heart-to-heart conversation, and Nami gets the wrong impression on Kai and realizes, oh no, Kai is actually a really nice person, right? And actually caring person, because Kai talks about, how, she does, look, it's okay if you take what you want to take. Like, I honestly have I don't care, because it's like, she's like, all this stuff is just excess stuff that I don't really need. It's like, I would love to give this shit to charity and give it to somebody that could definitely use it. So you definitely do see that Kai is not like every other rich person in One Piece. She's one of the few characters in One Piece that is rich, but they actually do care about the outside public. And the fact that she absolutely wants to give this stuff away, that's kind of the thing, right? So her and Nami have a heart-to-heart conversation, and everything, and obviously brings up about her mom too, or her parents, which I also forgot to mention. Nami was wearing this nice red dress, and Kaya was like, oh, my mom would appreciate this. And obviously, Nami, knowing that her mom's dead, is like, oh, I'm so sorry, I will change into something else. She's like, no, my mom would be appreciative if you kept that on, which that started the whole thing of Nami realizing like Kaya's not, a selfish person, right? So also too, Kaya does reveal to Nami that she is sick due to her cough, and Kaya's like, Honestly, I don't like it how people look down on me trying to think I'm some weak damsel in distress. It's basically Kaya saying like, no, I want people to look at me equally and not look at me as like a weak, defenseless person that needs protecting. Like I can handle my own fucking shit. And honestly, I loved this conversation between Hanami and her because it's like her being real and her saying like, look, just because I'm sick and I'm ill and I'm not myself doesn't mean I can't, protect myself, right? And I can't stand up for myself. So yeah, but anyways, listen to Claude. You can do your own thing. You're your own individual, your own strong person, and I know that. And yeah, so Nami leaves, and it's funny because Kaya's like, "Oh, don't forget your pillowcase." So she's like, "Yeah," but then you do see a change of heart with Nami, where she absolutely actually puts the stuff back. So you do see that growth in Nami of not wanting to be so greedy. Believe like, no, she's actually a good person. I shouldn't steal from her. So that's a good thing. But mostly that was kind of a bit of the episode. The next part of the episode basically covers the back half of the Syrup Village arc against Kuro and stuff like that. So yeah. But anyways, if you guys like the video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts. Hit that subscribe button if you want to get more One Piece content or any other anime content I upload to the channel or things like that. But till then, guys, stay safe out there. Have a great rest of your day or your night or whenever you're checking this video. Till then, guys, stay safe. Peace.